All right, man. North Korea. The the situation has heated way up. If you've watched our other North Korea videos, you know that I don't believe that North Korea has any desire to tangle with us, that they are completely the pawns of the Chinese. 6 weeks ago, I don't remember the exact timing. Please don't quote me on this. I didn't have time to do all the research, but it was within the last two months. I'm pretty sure it was about 6 weeks ago. The North Koreans couldn't even get a missile off the launch pad. They had like 5 or 6 missile failures in a row. Now suddenly, 6 weeks later, they've got an ICBM and a miniaturized warhead. And I'm sorry, but I'm calling bullshit on this one. You don't go from, running 1950s cast-off Soviet submarines and not being able to launch a missile to 6 weeks later, you've got a miniaturized warhead and an ICBM. That doesn't happen. That would be one of the greatest comebacks since Lazarus. China gave them this warhead. China gave them this missile. Now I'm not saying we're not going to war. Pastor Fox has put a video out on his Patreon site saying just that. He expects it within the next 2 weeks. I wouldn't argue with the man. He's far more plugged in than I am. My thing, and what's driving me nuts about all this, is that we're going to go kill a bunch of Koreans, potentially, and, they're not the problem. These are going to be some innocent people who get blown up. The problem, and I was getting a little, this morning I was doubting myself again a little bit, and I was starting to think, well, maybe he's got internal strife, maybe he needs to drum up some nationalism to quiet his people down. But then I read an article this morning where the Navy has floated the USS John McCain past one of these islands that China made in the South China Sea. And this is the second time we've challenged their claims over this South China Sea thing. All of this is about China and the South China Sea. They can't stand up to us directly, but they're trying to get us to recognize that if we don't recognize their claims to the South China Sea, then they're going to make the world as difficult for us as they can. If those two warships, those two separate incidences, those warships hadn't challenged that island, and they sailed within 12 miles of it. It's not like they were, we're pulling up to them and doing a game of chicken or anything. We wouldn't be seeing this escalation now from North Korea. Okay, it is not even rational for any country to say we're going to launch this specific attack at your specific island. And they actually didn't say they're going to attack Guam. If you are not paying attention to all this, North Korea has come out and said that they've got this ICBM, they've got this miniaturized warhead. Actually, I think South Korea is the one who's saying they have the warhead. And now North Korea is saying that they're going to launch four missiles that no one really thought they had, that have a range of about 2,300 miles at Guam, which is about 2,100 miles away. They say it's going to be a test or a statement. They're not trying to hit the island. They say they're just shooting island. Missiles are going to land 30 to 40 miles away from the island, which would be a pretty impressive feat. I don't think they have the technological ability to do it on their own. I think the Chinese would have to do it for them. Be that as it may, we have to take them seriously. They're forcing our hand in this situation. There's another issue sneaking around the back edge of this that no one's talking about too much, and that is that China and India have a border standoff going on right now. They've got troops staring each other in the eyeballs around Bhutan, of all places, which is a really big deal because China's trying to do this new modern Silk Road that gives them access to the West through Asia, like in the old days, and that's really where I think one of their main focuses is they want to control the South China Sea, and they want to be a regional power, and then they want to try to open up markets to the west of them. Yeah, or to their east. Yeah, they want to go over the continent, over the old Silk Road. This is important for you. This isn't a religious channel, but for those of you of a religious bent, this is important to us as Christians because there's a prophecy in Revelation that China and Russia, known as Gog and Magog, are going to invade Israel at some point and attack Jerusalem, and I believe that's actually when Armageddon happens, but I may be wrong on that. And right now, there's no way for China to get there. They don't have the Navy to get there. There's no route for them to get from China to Jerusalem. But if they open the old Silk Road goes right to Jerusalem. Or I think it goes to the north of it, but then there's like a spur that goes off. Anyway, so for those of us, who take the Bible literally, that's a really interesting development. And China and India have this thing going on right now that's not getting talked about, that has the ability to turn into a shooting war. They had a border war about 40 or 50 years ago now. I don't remember. I think it was in the 60s. And it's been tense with them ever since. So China really kind of, I think, looks at India as their main rival right now. They're the one they're vying for power with in the region. They want us to back off of the South China Sea, and they're going to go North Korea, or make North Korea do this. And there's no downside to this for China. If it turns into a shooting match with North Korea, what's China lose? Nothing. On the offhand chance North Korea lands a shot, it just weakens us in the region. And if we obliterate North Korea, it's not great for China. They'd rather not have that, but it's no big skin off their nose. The other thing is that the Chinese premier, and I meant to look up his name before I did this video and I forgot. I'm sorry, Jinping or Beijing, or I can't remember his name. He's coming up for a big party conference where maybe not necessarily he's going to get reelected, but he's got a chance to consolidate power. And China's been real good about turning over their top leadership for decades now. They haven't had anyone stay in power and sort of take over in a Putin-type way. And at least there's some speculation that he's angling towards that he wants to stay in power, consolidate power, become more of a Chairman Mao figure, a Stalin-type leader. And so he might be trying to force some issues just to strengthen his hand at home. But you have to remember, China is completely dependent on America. But they have to have access to our markets. Unless they just know a crash is coming, and they're just going to bail out now, and while the getting's good, they have to have access to American markets. China cannot afford to lose access to our markets, or their factories shut down. It would hurt our economy too, mind you, but it would destroy theirs. And I know a lot of you guys are interested in China holding our debt. They don't hold very much of our debt. When you hear the numbers, it sounds really big, but it's a tiny little portion. They've got no way to collect. There's no repo agent on the international stage where they come and repossess our battleships or something. The only way they have to collect on that debt is if we pay it back. And worst case scenario, if we had to pay it back, if someone would just turn on the printing press and just print off a bunch of money, and we'd all be a little bit poorer. But the debt situation with China holding our debt is not that big of a deal. So there you go. It's an interesting, I won't say scary. I am shocked at how quickly it escalated. You see the old Anchorman movie, and after the big, Anchorman rumble, Will Ferrell's like, well, that escalated quickly. This escalated quickly. This went from a low boil to steaming boil overnight, and it'll be interesting to see where it goes. I hate it that we're getting sucked into this. We should just be. I don't. This is tough because when someone makes a threat, you have to take them seriously. You can't ignore them. At the same time, North Korea is incapable of following through on this threat, and we're going to end up killing a lot of little brown people who had nothing to do with this situation. Kim Jong Potbelly Pig is going to get, smuggled off to China somewhere to live a few months in comfort before they assassinate him as being inconvenient. And the only thing that's really going to happen is we're going to kill a bunch of North Korean people. Or the North Korean military is going to flip out, and they are going to open up on Seoul. The South Korean capital is only 30 miles away from the DMZ, and they've got a ton of artillery on that DMZ. They're going to open up on Seoul with all that artillery, and they're going to kill thousands, possibly tens or even hundreds of thousands of people. Again, Koreans. It's a stupid situation. It's the stupid world we live in, and I hate it. But that's what's going on with Korea. I know there's a lot of Korea videos going on out there right now, but it's the big topic. And certainly for people in our community, it's something you have to pay attention to, because they are using the N-word. They are talking about nuclear weapons. Hey, man, we appreciate you. Thank you.